I will tell you about our program, and then I adore the children we work with, so if I seem really excited, that's why. And we also had kind of a magnificently cool morning this morning with our students. So we are a residential program. We are housed on the campus of the Greenville Hospital System. We're kind of the quiet secret nobody knows about because of HIPAA and because of the stigma with mental health. Most people don't know we exist. We actually were the first building built as part of the Greenville Health System on that campus, and when Greenville General closed. So it has been there roughly 45 years, and you'll see the children sometimes walking around on a campus doing different things with us, and people have no idea, which is a good thing. So our students are typically 6 to 12 years old, though right now we have a 13-year-old who's about to be 14, and we have taken children as young as 5. They come into our program for various reasons. They aren't all typically what you would describe as a student with a disability, but many of them are, and it's not been identified. So they come into our program with various things such as, and there's kind of a list on here of some of the things you might see. Kids with learning disabilities. Sometimes they're 12 and nobody has ever identified that because of their behavior. Children with genetic issues. Children who have been victims of various sexual abuse, physical abuse. Most of our children, it's a combination. But when you take all of that apart, when they walk into our building, they're a child, and that's the way you view them. They're a child that needs help, and the other things are kind of the things we deal with, but first they're a child, and so we want to make sure that our staff and anybody that walks in our building sees them as children first. So we have taken great measures when you come in, Robin's come to visit, to make it look like a school. We have a therapy dog, which I should have brought with me, but I'll have to bring her because she would just walk around and let you pet her, Chelsea. And to make it feel like it's not an institution. We've changed that. It is still a locked facility, but our children go off campus. They go and do things. We just went to Paris Mountain and went swimming in the lake. We go rock climbing, go to different things because we want them to not feel like this is their home. The other crucial part of our program is that our families, whatever that looks like, they are a huge part. They are the experts on their child. So when they walk in the door, we're not thinking, oh, we know everything, let's do everything for your child. We're thinking, let's have a partnership. That is a shift in residential care, and we are very fortunate. Our program, New Hope, are pilot programs for something called Building Bridges Initiative that you'll hear more about probably in your different agencies. It is from the state level. And the focus is looking at a family-driven, youth-guided care. So it's no longer the idea of residential, you come and the experts fix everything and then send these children out. It's the idea that children are experts on themselves, parents are experts. We bring what we can with the situation and we work in partnership. A good example, tonight we have monthly family nights. So the families come in and eat and just have normal, regular life experiences with their children. And then we have a parent support group where we aren't part of that. Families get together and discuss things and then come to us and say, we don't like the way this is happening, or we really like this practice. Let's change that. So our program is shifting with the state, with Building Bridges, to become something that's fluid. Children, the same thing. We have a children's advisory council. And people think a little 5-year-old or 6-year-old have no insight. These children are amazing. Just because they have special needs does not mean they're not smart, does not mean they can't do anything. These children have insight like adults I've never seen. So they will give us ideas and talk about things that then we can shape the way we treat the next child that comes in the door or that child. Even our staff sometimes are shocked when they hear the things that come out of their mouths. So in this program, anyone can refer a child. It can be a parent, often it's through schools, different things. Our program is very different as far as residential care. We are fortunate to be part of the Greenville Health System. They pay the Medicaid match. So anyone who refers a child, they are not held financially responsible. When the children come into our program, which is a blessing, it has always been that way. We've had many people go to the state and say, hey, prove this. And I'm like, go ask them. You know, we pay the Medicaid match. Please, I wouldn't want my agency to pay $500,000 for treatment. We pay the Medicaid match. And so when our kids come into our program, they become a family of one under Medicaid. It does not matter if they are very wealthy, if they're not wealthy. This is a really good thing, we feel like. So children come in very much on a level playing field. Parents can recommend they come in, schools, mental health centers, private psychiatrists, and when they come in, again, another thing we teach all of our staff, we don't care what the family looks like. They can come in the door with 666 on their forehead. They are the expert. They deserve to be respected. They are the parents. Again, that can be a shift for a lot of residential facilities. If staff don't agree with that, they typically, we're quickly working on how to get them out of our door, because everyone that walks in our door should be treated with respect. It is important for us in our program that these children, again, are children first. I call them my students. I'm very blessed that in the summer I get to teach the older group, and that's why this morning was such a great group. Here's an example. In my classroom this summer, I had children from 3rd grade to 8th grade. Ability level, if you look at just their psych testing, you would see some kids who maybe read on a 1st grade level, some kids who read on a 4th grade level, one kid who's very gifted. This morning, we did something called Poetry Off the Page, where every child in that classroom was able to stand up at all those ability levels and use their bodies to come up with movements, and they memorized a poem verbally. They were able to act it out. Then they were able to talk about what that means to them. We integrate in our program throughout the classroom day, throughout every moment of their lives, including at home, management. How do you manage things? So when you see things that we're doing in our program, a lot of it is, we call it front loading. We're doing things ahead of time to prevent behaviors, and we're teaching parents. We want parents to come in. We have observation rooms. They can come in the classroom. I don't care who comes in the classroom with me. The kids are used to it. We want it to be taught and learned. So these children are learning, how do I function in life? How do I go to a restaurant? How do I make my bed? How do I bathe? This morning, how do I interact in a group? Just because they're children with special needs doesn't mean that they need to be stuck behind a corner or in a study carrel. The first thing I do is pull every kid into the front. There is nobody in the corner in our classrooms. Every student has the right to learn, and everyone should participate in that. And that's how they should be treated the whole time. So while they're in the program, we're immersing them in this and their families. We do use some pieces of behavior mod, but we integrate very individualized things. So the kids are getting token reinforcement with the goal to gradually pull that out and start generalizing so that they can fit, into the world. Tomorrow we're taking two girls out to a restaurant in downtown Greenville to give them the experience of how do you eat in a restaurant. We don't have as many girls, so getting them away. How do you have girl conversations? How do you interact and not kill each other when you're in middle school? We have that a lot. I always refer to it as, we're going to work together. There's no days of our lives we're young and the restless. Can you handle that? Yes, ma'am. All right, then let's do it. And when they can't, we stop. We figure out how. Okay. So it's a constant fluid thing. There's not a break from, in this pocket we do this, and then we go here and do this. A child with a learning disability, I teach the families, they don't leave class and it goes away. It exists throughout their day. How do we help teach the parents? Here's a psych eval. How do we make that make sense to them? Where are the parents and how can we teach them what to do? So these are the things that we're doing on a constant basis. With the Building of Bridges initiative, the really neat thing about it is the state is looking at recidivism and how many children come back into residential facilities, or they end up in the ER, over and over again. So they do well and then they leave. And what happens? They go from having access to therapists all the time to all of a sudden, what do? I have to keep it all together for a month and meet with somebody for a month? How do I do that? So the shift is in this state to be able to build those bridges so that doesn't happen. Wrap them up. Continuum of care, bless them, is now going to be literally wrapping these kids up the moment they walk out the door with us. And we're working together to do that. Our therapists are now, and this has been a shift for us too, our therapists are now doing co-therapy. Our goal is to get up to a year of co-therapy with their receiving therapist. for us, hopefully eventually, to be able to go in more into the homes and do more of those things so that the children can transition out. This is kind of the growth that the state is seeing in general in residential care. But in the children's program, a lot of these things have always been there. It was based on Nicholas Hobbs, who formed Project Riyadh over almost 50 years ago. And the idea was that, yes, these kids may have some issues, but let's not focus on those. Let's focus on replacing those, re-educating them, teaching them the skills that they need. It's had lots of different words, but it's still re-education, basically. How do we teach them? You'll see in there it says the 12 principles. I won't read through all of those. I like technology very much, but given that HIPAA, we can't show pictures of our children, I didn't think you'd want to post all that stuff there. So my kids always tell me, Miss Robin, make sure your PowerPoints are really cool and have cool stuff in them. So we try to have really cool stuff. So the 12 principles really talk about, if you look at it, the philosophies of treating children like children. One of them is talking about having joy every day. Our children, they have to ask for hugs, but they get hugs when they want them. The dog comes in the classroom, they can sit and play with the dog. If they need to stand up to do their work, and that's the best way they learn. We are very focused on changing the way that children are taught, not just in classrooms, but also therapy-wise, because our kids are sensory learners. They need to touch, smell, taste, feel. Example, yesterday we're studying India. And we're studying using a novel, and we're learning about how this particular child is a survivor. And our whole focus this summer is on how you can be a survivor, what are qualities of survivors. It's all based on research, but they have no clue that that's the case, and how we keep coming back to those ideas. So yesterday we made doll in the classroom in a crock pot, and did some measurement things, and every last one of those children, and these are children who don't have a lot of experiences, they all ate, they loved it, they talked about it, they smelled spices, and they talked about what it would be like to be in the Spice Bazaar. What would it be like to be the character in this novel? How do I relate to this character? Again, these are things that then the therapist is using in the afternoons when she's doing group therapy. How do I pull these things in and talk about that? So the children's program is kind of a exciting, anomaly, fun, fluid place where you're seeing things like that. Tomorrow morning, here's an example. In fact, I had kind of forgotten what this was called, and Victoria came in the classroom. She's our week coordinator, and said, don't forget Norman's coming at 8:30. I'm like, who's Norman? And she's like, the dog that rides the bike. And I'm like, oh yeah. So we have, any kind of experience these kids can have. And some of our kids are from affluent families. Some of our kids, most of our kids are not. It kind of is interesting to watch. It's interesting to watch the kids kind of come together. It's interesting to watch the parents identify, my child has this and my child has this. I tell my students, which I think has probably led me here, even though I avoided this like the plague. My dad's a retired psychiatrist, and I really avoided this like the plague. That I also have a reading disability. And when I learned, because of my parents, because there weren't all these services, how do I learn? And then all of a sudden I was able to learn. I was able to read, and I was able to go, college and graduate school and all those things. And they're like, how's that? You're smart. I'm like, but you are too. You learn differently. So our goal there is for that to transition through therapy, through their meetings with the psychiatrist, through their interactions with the family, and look at them as a whole person and not just one individual. The big question most people ask us is, do we have a waiting list? Yes, we do have a waiting list. It is fluid again. We want families to say, my child's better and I don't need to come in. So, and can you keep them on the list? Sure, we'll put them on the list. We'll just move them to the back and we'll bring in the next child. When our other thing that I absolutely love to hear is, let's say we go to the Peace Center to a performance and people, gosh, your kids are so well behaved. And you can't help but smile, and the kids, we brag on them, and the kids are like, that's funny because we're from Marshall Pickens. And then the kids from, Buena Vista, they're like awful. Because again, if you teach them how to manage themselves by first managing them, it's kind of that funnel. So you funnel it down, you get very specific. and then teach them how to take over that role, how to teach their parents. You know, here's a parent, we need to teach you, we need to be honest with you. Nobody's ever explained to you, what does it mean that your child has an IQ under 70? What does that mean? That doesn't mean they can't have quality of life. What does that really mean? We try to be very honest with them. What does it mean to have bipolar disorder? With the children, very honestly, what does that mean? Does that mean you can't be successful? Of course you can be successful. Here's examples of people, but do you have to always take your medicine? Yes. Why does your body act this way? You teach them. We have found so often we get children, 6-year-olds even, 12-year-olds, they do not understand their diagnosis. They do not understand their type of disability, and nobody's ever been honest with them. Children are bright. They want to know. Part of the problem that we experience is because there's that sense of not knowing, that's where a lot of the behavior comes from. I don't want to look stupid in class because I can't read, so I'm going to throw a desk at you. I'm going to call you every name I can think of because I'm stupid. I hate school. Nobody has ever believed that I could learn. Nobody ever said the words, you're smart. Nobody ever said, you know what? Yeah, you're not good on paper, but man, you can talk. You can answer questions. Let's put that in your IEP. Let's talk about that. So that's what we try to do, is really look at that child as a human being and as a person, and that they all have value to this world, and what can we do to get there. We have, I have to say, amazing staff with all these different personalities, and that's something kids have to learn too. But there's kind of the framework. But gently over the time they're there is taking away each one of those walls so that they don't have our protection anymore, so that they can succeed. So, that's kind of the basic of the children's program. Can you tell I really like it?
Just in the school, how much you work with the schools to get the kids
back? Yes. We've done this for a long time, and we're very blessed with Greenville County in particular. Any child who has an IEP, Greenville County provides a bus. They come with a bus and an aide for our one child. And we do typically about a 3-week transition. Our staff will go to the school. We would meet with the school extensively before that and come up with a plan so that we can work through all those kinks. And that's very helpful. We have started doing them. We have one bus, and we have started trying to figure out how we can take kids through Ada County. There are about 23 school districts we work with, and we have had great experiences with school districts. They really, really believe in the children's success, so we will go, and we transition to other things too with the schools. We'll go sometimes and just go stand outside the sign with the school, take a picture, and leave. Then the next day, a very anxious child, come back, walk in the building, leave. Look on the website, what does the teacher look like, talk through those things. So the transitions are extremely helpful for the children. Eventually we would like to even make those bigger and have more to it. With the building bridges stuff, we've even looked at how can we better that, what can we do to make that more successful for these kids, because they, again, you leave that security, and then what do you do? We are also very lucky. Our children go home every Saturday and Sunday from like 7 in the morning until 7 or 8 in the evening on the weekends, and they practice. I'm working with a child right now that has a horrible time outside of the program. In the program, everybody's like, oh wow, well, I don't see anything. So I am doing as much away time as possible. Go with your family, practice. Go with your family, practice. Here, go spend time, family time. Our LOAs are family time. What can you do? How can you learn how to interact with your family? Because that's where the child wants to be, but it's so hard. It's hard to keep it together when all those things come into play. It's easier when these people who aren't your parents are there. So transitions are huge, and they're very difficult, as most of you already know, for our kids. We do have a mixed bag of kids. We have kids certainly on the spectrum, all kinds of psychiatric disorders. Most of our kids have a mix of things. Probably 99% of our kids have ADHD. That's why, again, all of these different types of teaching, whether it's in therapy, which I feel like is teaching too, just at different kinds and different things, and teaching in the classroom, have to involve touching, tasting, feeling, smelling, moving, all of those things. You'll see kids jumping on trampolines. We have a treadmill, things like that, anything that they need. We have kids who have a hard time generalizing, so the whole time they're there, we're practicing those things. I have a little, right now we're not because it's so hot, but I have a little girl that twice a week, she and I were going out and we call it jogging around campus because of that. She is an aggressive, when she blows up, she's aggressive. So we replace that with something physical. So the physical is the movement. So she and I would go out and go around the campus and around the campus, wobbling. But anyway, so that was a very good, I forgot to say that. Is there any questions that you have about the program? Yes, ma'am.
Could it be longer than 12 months?
Yes. Yes, we're trying to, with the whole focus on really helping with those transitions, we really want to actually increase the time, but it's individual. We have had kids before where the parent decided they didn't want the child anymore. Obviously, we're not going to send them, we're going to wrap them up and do what we need to. We've had parents, a death in the family occurred, we're not going to send them out when there's a trauma. We've had taken kids back. We have taken kids at different ages because we've already had such an investment in them and they were coming back. And these families, we know that and we can't just ignore their needs. We do have 22 beds. So we like that our size is smaller because we can really focus and know them. They know us, and that's important. We do all go by our first names. That's, the other part of that too, is that community feeling. Kim actually used to work with us, so I'm like, yeah, two friendly faces. So it's just that sense of that kind of thing is, coming together. And it's the little things with our kids that they never see. We took kids one time to a park recently, and I grilled hot dogs. They were shocked that I knew how to grill. They were shocked that they didn't know why hot dogs had limes on them. They'd never seen that. They had never made s'mores. Just regular life stuff, making sure they brush their teeth. We have lots of, we get the age where we get the smelly kids that don't know how to bathe. They all of a sudden stop wanting to bathe again. We've got to get in there and, talk about how do you do those things. It's doing all those things, but also recognizing we are not their parents. And we want to make sure that they know this is not their home. We want them to go to their home because that can be a detriment to kids. So.
Probably have time for one more question if there's another question. Let's give Robin a big hand.